The military is going to come to an end. And when that time comes, what are you going to do about it? Getting out the military is like getting out of prison. It's intimidating, it scares you, and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do next. Transition doesn't have to be hard. One thing that I learned when I got out, guys, and it took me a while to figure that out, the military does a really good job of telling us that we're really good at doing one thing. What they don't tell you is how much more you can do. But I'm here to tell you guys, the skills that you learn in the military, civilian companies are paying thousands and millions of dollars for it. So what I'm gonna do is go over how you, as a former special operation guy, as a former 11 Bravo, as a former 12 Bravo, as a former whatever, can possibly join the United States Marshal Service. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Green Beret Chronicles show. Today we got a good one for you guys. We're going to discuss a variety of different topics to include, guys, you want to transition out of the service. You don't know which branch you want to join. Today we're going to cover how you could join the US Marshals, all right? And then we're also going to cover identity, guys. You're getting ready to leave the military. You don't know what to do with your life, right? I'm going to share with you what I did and how I gained my identity back once I transition out of the military, in hopes that it will inspire you, right? So those are what we're going to cover today. If this is your first time watching me, my name is Jay Dorleus, retired U.S. Army Green Beret, and the intent behind this channel, guys, is to coach, teach, and mentor the next generation of special operations soldiers. So if you get any value out of this, like, subscribe, and also share with your buddies, all right? With all that said, guys, let's jump right into the first topic.
Let me interject here real quick. I got a couple of super chats on the Cash App from someone named Adam Shadoff trying to bash my friend's coffee company, which is not good. Apparently he is offended because the coffee is called Dark Arts. Well, let me tell you something, dude. Dark Arts, if you would have watched the live stream on Sunday, the Dark Arts is spycraft, okay? So pull your panties out of your wad. That's what it refers to. And it's a coffee cup. You're looking down at the coffee because 99% of the world doesn't have handles on the coffee. If you want to look at something as a conspiracy, go for it. But before you do that, let me show you this. You don't go for my friends or family. I'll come for you. I'll ban your ass so fast you won't even know what happened. Globally sourced, mission ready. Good friend of mine, Jay Dorleus, retired Green Beret. He's from Haiti. He was in New York City as a 13-year-old kid when the Twin Towers went down. 6 out of his 7 siblings have served this country. And he's got a foundation now. And if you notice, all the names of the coffee have something to do with a spy process. Dead drop, honeypot, brush pass, cold bump. If you knew anything, you'd know what he was talking about. He was on here talking about this very thing. Let me show you something else that the guy does. Okay? Look at this one. Dark Arts Coffee Foundation. He helps veterans get into housing and get veterans off the street. Okay? So if you want to make your $2 donations on Cash App and try to insult someone, you insulted the wrong frickin' guy. Jay Dorleus is a damn good dude. Dark Arts Coffee Foundation.
All right, so the very first thing we're going to cover today is going to be the loss of identity or identity shift, right? Guys, I remember when I was getting ready to exit the military, right? I was sitting behind my desk as a first sergeant at the schoolhouse. I had been in for 19 years at that point, right? I didn't know what to do. All I knew was I didn't want to stay in any longer because the admin job, that is the first sergeant job, was just killing me. I couldn't do it anymore, right? I'm more, move, shoot, communicate, medicate. You put me behind the desk and I'm, writing in COERs all the time and I'm going out to check out training and I just couldn't do it, right? So I made the decision right then and there, hey, I'm getting out of the military. I want out. And at that point, it hit me. Oh, for the last 19 years, this was my life, right? Wake up at 4:30, do PT. All right, lunch at 11:30, be back by 1. Then we did work and then went home at 5 o'clock. 19 years, that was it, right? And now it's about to come to an end. It's intimidating, it scares you, and you're trying to figure out what you're gonna do next, right? It's like, the best way to put it is like, hey, you're getting out of jail. After 19 plus years of being in jail, you're getting out of jail, you don't know what to do with your life. What are you gonna do then? So it hit me, guys, and then I started thinking like, well, what do I like to do? What do you enjoy doing in the military that you can do in the civilian world, right? That was my process. It's like, man, I love being around soldiers. I love coaching. I like mentoring, right? I like helping them get the best out of their abilities. And that's what I wanted to do. That's what I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed it as a team leader. I enjoyed it as a squad leader. I enjoyed it as a platoon sergeant. I enjoyed it as an SF guy. I enjoyed it as a team sergeant, as a first sergeant. That's what I enjoyed doing, right? Getting the best out of those around me. So with that in mind, I went to work. I was like, man, instead of having a group of 30 dudes, instead of having a team with 12 dudes, I can get on social media and I can coach, teach, and mentor that way, right? I can make the world my classroom. I can help everybody out. I can help the masses, essentially. And that's how I figured out what my next purpose was going to be in life. That's how I made that decision to jump on social media and do what I was doing now. Because I first had to realize that, hey, the military is going to come to an end. For everybody watching out there, I don't care if you do 35, I don't care if you do 40, I don't care if you do 50, 60, whatever. It's going to come to an end. And when that time comes, what are you going to do about it, right? How are you going to transition? How are you going to ditch that old identity and find you a new one? How are you going to find purpose, right? You got to start thinking about all that stuff now. And if you're already out and you're still trying to find out what your purpose is, better late than never, right? You need to do it right away, because if you don't, you're just going to wither away, right? There's two types of people that leave the military. There's the group of guys that leave the military and never shed that military identity to where they go back to contracting, to where they go back to working within the military. But nothing wrong with that at all, right? And then there's those that realize that, hey, they can do a lot more, and they transition completely out and they recreate themselves, right? That's one of the things that I'm really interested in, is how do I recreate myself every month, every year, right? To where I'm evolving, I'm becoming the best version of myself always, right? Because at the end of the day, if you think about it, guess what, guys? Majority of us, right? We joined the military at a very young age. For me, it was 18. I joined the military at the age of 18, right? And now I got out, well, I was 39 when I got out. Guys, I still had half of my life left to live. Could you imagine if the military chapter was what defined me, to where that's all I ever was? That's the best version of myself that I ever could be? That's horrible, right? I'm 39 and that was it. That was the highlight of my life. It doesn't have to be like that, guys. You need to realize that the military was just a chapter of your life. Once that chapter is done, move on to the next one and figure out what the next chapter is going to be, right? And then once you find that out, guys, go to work, right? Make it the best chapter of your life. And then once that chapter is done, go write another one, man. But don't let the military highlights be the best time of your life, because it's not. Right? Because you're 39, 40 years old. You still have a whole life of life left to live, right? And if you don't live it, guys, and you're thinking about, oh, back in the good old days, dude, you were 19 years old. Why are you reminiscing about that when you were 19 and you're not trying to make the best out of your current life? And I know it's a lot harder said than done, guys, but know that it's possible. Now, like I said earlier, guys, getting out the military is like getting out of prison. Keep in mind, if you're going through the process right now, once you transition, there's going to be a culture shock. But again, it blows my mind, because before we came in the military, we were civilians, right? The Army did a really good job at turning us from civilian into soldiers. What they don't do is a good job at turning us from soldiers to civilians. They do a horrible job at that, right? However, once you get out, just know that it's coming. There's going to be a culture shock, right? There's going to be a change of scenery. There's going to be a change of how things are done. Knowing that it's coming, I don't know why it surprises everybody. It surprised me when I got out, right? But I knew it was coming, so I completely understand. But know that it's coming, guys. There's going to come a time where you're going to wake up and you're no longer going to be a soldier, right? You're going to be a civilian. And guess what? You're going to get treated like a civilian. And you got to learn how to adapt, right? You're going to learn how to stop speaking in acronym terms. You got to learn how to, explain certain things to people. You got to learn how to communicate softly, effectively, right? All that stuff's going to come. I'm still trying to figure that out myself. And I've been out for about 2 years. All right. So just know that it's going to come, guys. And transition doesn't have to be hard. All right, it doesn't have to be hard. It is challenging, but you can definitely get through it if you change your mindset and know that it's coming and you start planning for it accordingly. Now let's cover skills that you get from the military and how they transition. One thing that I learned when I got out, guys, and it took me a while to figure that out, the military does a really good job of telling us that we're really good at doing one thing, right? Whether that's move, shoot, communicate as an SF guy, you're really good at doing that one thing. What they don't tell you is how much more you can do. And I get it, right? Because if they showcase how valuable you were as a soldier, then they risk you leaving a lot sooner. But I'm here to tell you guys, the skills that you learn in the military, civilian companies are paying thousands and millions of dollars for it, right? Because they value what we bring to the table as a military guy. But you need to value that. You need to be aware of that, right? Because now when you transition, you can easily translate your special operational skills that you got into leadership, into entrepreneurship, into consulting. You can do all those things, but if you don't think you're worthy, if you don't think that you have the skills and that you can compete in the civilian marketplace, then you're not going to, right? For the last 20 or so years, the military has been telling you, hey, you're only good for this. Hey, you do really, really good at that, but you can't do this, but you can't do that, right? Guys, that's not the case at all. The shit that we learn in the military, I didn't learn how valuable it was until about a year or so after being retired, right? Then I'm like, wait, this is basic stuff that I learned as a private. How do you, CEO of such company, can't figure that out? Right? That's when I realized, oh, that's why you're paying all these guys thousands of dollars for consulting, because you don't know how to put together a communication plan, because you don't know how to effectively communicate with your team. You don't know how to problem solve. You don't know how to do any of this. That's why you need military personnel to come into your company and do it. Right? But for us, we take it for granted. We just see it as business as usual, right? Because again, that's what we're used to. But that's not the case at all, guys. All the stuff you learn in the military is valuable. You just have to put a price tag on it. Last but not least, guys, as far as transitioning out of the military, right, and gaining perspective and gaining a new mission and all that is going to be, understand that transitioning out of the military is not only going to be hard on you, right? It's also going to be hard on your kids. It's going to be hard on your family because you're trying to figure out what you want to do. It's going to be stressful. You know, they're trying to figure out what's going on with you, etc. It's going to be hard for everybody. And that's why I say the sooner you can plan for it, the better your execution is going to be. And then oftentimes, guys, based on what I've seen, right, PTSD doesn't really exist until you get out. Why? Because while you're in the military, you're in it. You're in the suck. You're dealing with deploying. You're dealing with doing work. You're doing everything that you signed up to do, right? Once you get out and it all stops, that's when PTSD and everything else starts to creep in. You need to be made aware of this, right? Because if you know it's coming, then you can start leaning forward and getting the help that you need so you don't have to deal with it, right? Keep that in mind, guys. PTSD is coming as soon as you leave the military, right? Not a couple of days after, but probably immediately. Once it hits you that, oh, the guys are no longer around, I no longer have chaos in my life, that's when it's going to start hitting, right? But again, if you know about this, you could plan for it, right? And you can defeat it just like I did, right? With all that said, guys, know that transition is coming. Now you've got to the point where you transition. What are you going to do with your life, right? What are you going to do next? In this next segment, I'm going to talk about joining the United States Marshal Services, right? Because again, as an individual with a military background, there's several different things that you can do, right? And law enforcement agencies, right, the three-letter agencies, are some of the places that you can go, right? So what I'm going to do is go over, right, in detail how you, as a former special operation guy, as a former 11 Bravo, as a former 12 Bravo, as a former whatever, can possibly join the United States Marshal Service. So the first thing we'll do here, guys, is cover what the United States Marshal Service do, right? What are their missions? They are the enforcement arm of the federal court, handling fugitive operation, witness protection, prisoner transport, judicial securities, and also asset forfeiture. If you want more of them, guys, just use Google, right? Marshal Services. It'll tell you everything you need to know as far as the mission set of those individuals, right? Now, let's say you check out the mission set and you're interested, you want to do that job, right? What are the qualifications and prerequisites? So the very first one, guys, you must be a U.S. citizen, right? You must have a valid driver's license. Goes without saying, I don't know who nowadays don't have a driver's license, right? And you must be able to pass a medical and also a physical fitness test, right? You also have to be able to pass a background investigation, right? You have to be able to obtain and maintain a top secret clearance. Goes without saying, guys, you're working for the government. You're going to be chasing after a bunch of different bad operators. You got to be able to access sensitive information, right? And maintain that ability to do so, right? Age requirement, guys. You got to be under the age of 36, although that is waivable, right? So if you're 37, don't be discouraged. You can apply for a waiver and still get the opportunity to go join the Marshal Services, right? Again, guys, they are looking for veterans, right? This is one of those agencies that appreciate what we as veterans bring to the table, right? Another thing that you need to be able to do is sign a mobility agreement. A mobility agreement basically states that, hey, U.S. government, after I do my initial 3 years here at this duty station, you are free to move me wherever U.S. Marshals could serve. That's what that says. But having a military background, that shouldn't deter you, because the military typically moves soldiers' duty installations every 3 years anyways, right? So you and your family should be accustomed to this. Again, like I mentioned earlier, guys, you got to be able to pass a physical fitness test, which consists of 1.5 mile run, right? Easy day. Push-ups, sit-ups, easy day. Sit and reach. No idea what that is, right? And you got to be able to meet these at the 70% standard. 70% standard meaning everything is on the scale of 100, right? You got to do 70% of that number. Within Special Operation, we do 80%. Big Army does 60%, right? So it should be an easy day for anybody that's served in the military. 1.5 miles is nothing, guys. I just ran freaking 5 miles this morning, right? I'm hurting, but you should be able to knock that out without a blink of an eye, right? So now you've decided that, hey, I meet those, right? I'm 36, you know, I can do push-ups, sit-ups, I can do all this stuff. I meet the standards. What's the actual process? How do you actually apply for the Marshal Services? Well, let's go through them right now, guys. First thing you got to do, guys, is reach out to a recruiter, right? And get information as far as how to apply or where to go to apply. You can do this virtually or in person. You can just Google US Marshal Services and they'll take you where you need to be and get you in contact with a recruiter, right? All right, so once you get all the information you need, you want to apply, you've spoken to your family, you got the thumbs up, and you actually want to go forward with this, all you're going to do is go to USA Jobs website and submit an application, right? Typical stages include a questionnaire, an assessment, background check, and also medical check, and they're going to check your training. They're going to see if you have any type of military background, right? Guys, once you decide to go through this, you'll go through that process just how I laid out. And if you'll qualify, you get accepted, they'll reach out to you and they'll let you know, right? Pretty straightforward. In my opinion, all these agencies, all these government agencies have a similar process, right? Biggest thing is going to be, if you're military, having the right paperwork and make sure that you have a honorable discharge, right? That's going to be key in getting accepted into some of these law enforcement agencies, guys. You gotta have a honorable discharge. You can't have a other than honorable. You can't have a dishonorable discharge, right? That's going to disqualify you. Now, once you submit your application, you go through the screening and selection process, right? You are then going to attend the basic U.S. Marshal training course, right? If you make it through that, your training will be ongoing, guys. You're continuously going to train on firearms qualification, physical standards. You're going to learn all the legal educational jargon, and you're going to be well versed in tactical operation, right? That's just something that goes with being a U.S. Marshal or any type of law enforcement. Once you actually get your feet through the door, you have to keep working on honing those skills that you might need at any given times, right? And within the Marshal Service, probably one of the more important ones is going to be learning all the legal aspect of things, right? As you're running throughout the United States and flying all over the place, chasing fugitive, you got to know what the laws are as it relates to that particular type of operation. Now, a lot of you guys don't realize this, but as somebody that has a military background, you are actually at an advantage when it comes to joining some of these law enforcement agencies, right? Some of the advantage that you guys have is going to be, for example, one that's underrated is going to be land navigation, right? It's one of those things that I always say on this channel. Land navigation is so crucial to where every type of special operations selection process has land navigation in there. Why? Because it tests your ability to lead, right? Lead who? To lead yourself. Right? When you're out there doing land navigation, that's what you're actually doing. You're leading yourself from point A to point B while abiding by all the rules that cadres have imposed on you. If you can do that, guys, you are somewhat of a leader, right? And that's something that law enforcement agencies do look for, right? Another thing is marksmanship. For the most part, you're coming out of the military, you know how to shoot an M16. Pistol, that might take a while, but an M16, you should be able to load it, clear it, squeeze the trigger if you need to, etc., right? Another thing that you typically get, especially coming from the special operations side of things, is going to be small unit tactics, right? Small unit tactics encompasses ambushes, raids, right? You should know how to do those, right? Even if you're just 11 Bravo, you should know how to do raids and ambushes, etc., right? Battle drill 1 Alpha, etc. You will know how to do those, and that's less money the US Marshal has to spend on you teaching you how to do that stuff if you already show up already knowing how to do it, right? And then one of the more underrated things that a lot of guys don't give themselves credit for is the ability to make decisions under pressure, guys. That's something that the military does a really good job at teaching us how to do at the lowest level, right? Even if you're a supply clerk, I come to you as a team sergeant, I'm like, hey, I'm going to the range and I need X, Y, and Z in 30 minutes, right? Guess what you're going to do? You're going to make it happen, right? Because if you don't, I'm going to crush you. That's operating under pressure. Not a lot of people can do that, right? So you're at an advantage of ready if you already know how to do all that stuff, right? And of course, physical resiliency. Guys, I don't care who you are. At the lowest level, right, you're going to get smoke like nobody's business, right? Smoke just means your military leaders are going to make you do a shit ton of exercises at any given time. They're going to help you develop what we like to call physical resiliency, right? It's going to happen, guys. Whether you want to admit it or not, it's something that you're actually going to go through. Another advantage that you guys are going to have is just going to be operating in shitty environments, right? What do I mean? Think of Iraq midsummer, right? It's 120 some degrees, right? Think of Kuwait, you know, in the dead heat of summer, 150 plus degrees, right? Guys, we know how to operate in messed up environments, right? At any given time, guys, you go out to Camp McCall, and it's probably the crappiest type of weather you've ever experienced, right? There's a saying out here within the community that Camp McCall has its own weather pattern. It has its own thermostat. It can be nice and shiny one day, but as soon as it's time for us to go out and train, weather goes to crap, right? It is what it is. It's something that you bring to whatever law enforcement agency that you decide to join, right? In this case, the United States Marshal Services. Now, it's not all sunshines and rainbows over at the Marshal Services, right? You will have some challenges. Some of those challenges include bureaucracy, right? Guys, it's a civilian law enforcement entity. There's always going to be bureaucracy. It is what it is, right? Pay, right? The pay is going to be different. Just think about it, guys. If you decide to go contracting after your military career, you're probably going to get more money on the private sector side as opposed to going to a law enforcement agency. The pay is going to be a lot worse. Why? Because you're a government worker, right? Suck it up. Another challenge is going to be judicial/legal constraints. While we're running and gunning on the military side, right? We're downrange, we're doing work. Yes, we have the rules of engagement, but it's going to be a lot more lax than it would be here in the States running around as a marshal. And I know it's going to be a hard thing to do as far as transitioning, just because for the last 20 or so years, you're used to having the authority to pull out your sidearm and put holes in people to defend yourself. Now you're in the States and your life is in danger. You can't necessarily do that in a manner that you would downrange because you know there's legal repercussions, right? It's not as easy as, hey, he had a gun, right? Now it's, he had a gun. Did he pull it out? Did he aim it at you? Did he say, I'm going to shoot you? Did he do all these things that as you're running it through your head, you probably got shot already, right? It's a lot different down here based on what I've heard, right? Some of the other things that will be challenging to you is as messed up as this one sounded, it's going to be report writing, man. Like I have a lot of buddies and law enforcement that, you know, after they go out and do work and whatever incident, they got to come back and write pages and pages of reports detailing everything that took place as far as how things went and what they did and who did what. I was like, man, I ain't got time for that, man. We're just trying to go sling lead and go home to our families, right? Not the case, guys. You got to write a bunch of reports, right? You got to know all the legal justification for what your actions were, why you did certain action. Sounds like a lot of tedious work. But again, purpose, mission-driven direction, Marshal Service might be the place for you, right? And of course, guys, another challenging aspect to this job is going to be balancing family life, right? Work-life balance. Again, if you serve doing GWAT deployments here and there, you should be somewhat used to it. Telling your family you're retired, join the Marshal Service, and now you have to go all over again, right? So make sure they understand that, right? But if you want to do this, guys, there's room for improvement. Why? Because the Marshal Service also have a special operation arm also, right? So next we'll talk about how to actually join the special operation arms of the United States Marshal Services. Here are some of the prerequisites that you gotta have if you choose to go towards the specialized arm of the US Marshal Services. Before you even apply, guys, you must already be a deputy marshal that is in good standing, right? Meaning, can't be a dirtbag. Goes without saying, right? Be a good dude. Then, once you meet that, guys, you typically need 3 years of service before being eligible to actually apply to SOG, right? Again, clean record, be a good dude, strong evaluation, meaning not only are you a good dude, but you're good at your job, right? And you have a proven tactical performance, meaning you can move, shoot, communicate, right? You're not out there just shooting civilians, right? You're not aiming for B and hitting Z, right? Goes without saying. And then what also will help you out too, guys, if you have prior SWAT, task force, or field operation experience, right, which will help your packet stand out. Again, guys, just because you join the Marshal Service doesn't mean you're going to qualify for this, right? Just because you're in big army doesn't mean you qualify for special forces, right? You still got to be a good soldier, right? You got to have good NCORs. You got to be in best physical shape of your life. And then once you're good at being a good overall soldier, you can go to selection to become an even greater soldier. Same thing with the United States Marshal Services, guys, right? And of course, leadership and the ability to make decisions under stress will also help you out and go into selection, right? Now, let's say you meet all those things and you want to go to Marshal Services selection for special operations, right? There's a couple of different ways that they do it, right? There's a scoring system, a selection board, and an interview process that you have to go through, right? So selection begins with a scoring system. They will score you in performance, physical fitness, and also your supervisor's recommendation, right? Once that's done, guys, if you have a high enough score, you will get invited to the interview process where a SOG cadre will interview you. The interview itself will test your decision-making process, stress management, tactical mindset, and emotional maturity, guys. We deal with this a lot in special operations, right? The 18 X-rays, they're not as mature as they should be, right? It is what it is. All right, so that is something that they're going to test for is your emotional maturity, which makes sense based on the nature of the job. They're looking for people who can stay calm, adaptable, and team-oriented when chaos erupts, right? That's what they're looking for. Now, you make it through all of that, right? You score high, you pass the interview, right? You have everything they're looking for. It's time to go to selection, right? What is selection? Guys, the selection course runs roughly 25 to 27 days. It's intense, it's immersive, and it is purposely brutal. Goes without saying, just like any other special operation courses in the world, right? Expect 17-hour long days, right? Minimal rest and near constant evaluation by cadres, right? Core elements include obstacle courses, right? Problem solving courses, tactical movements, CQB, shoot/no shoot drills, ruck marches under load, right? Water confidence event, stress shoot, live fire, all while you're fatigued. You'll also go through leadership reaction drills, Dude, I remember leadership reaction drills, man. Like, they'll put you in certain scenarios and they'll be like, hey, private such and such, you're in charge. Or sergeant such and such, you're in charge. And there'll be some ridiculous scenario that you as a leader now have to react to, right? And you never know what the right answer is. You just got to go off your pure instinct, right? And hope that you're not making the wrong decision. Pretty interesting stuff, right? And then you'll do peer evaluation, guys. In special operations or in SFAS, we do pinks and blues, right? Meaning, during team week, they'll put us in a group of dudes and then guys will be in charge, right? Towards the end of the iteration, cadre will come through, they'll hand out pinks and blues. If I'm a good dude and I did my job, I'm gonna get a blue card. If I'm a dirtbag and I didn't do my job, I'm gonna get a pink, right? Towards the end of selection, they round all those up and then they see who sucks at being a teammate. And that has the ability to keep you from getting selected, right? Because when you think of it, there's two cadres and they don't have eyes in the back of their heads to where they can see everything. So what they do is they leverage your peers who are going to serve on a team with you anyways, and they see if your peers are willing to have you as a teammate. If they say yes, then good. That makes the cadre's job easier. If they say no, guess what? That also makes the cadre's job easier too. So pinks and blues, guys, wonderful, wonderful tool to use to help assess guys while they're out there going through selection, right? And then written exams covering tactical communication and legal knowledge, right? We did this at selection too, guys. When guys are tired, sleepy, and hungry, and we're in our tents, instead of letting us go to sleep, they'll come in and say, hey, write an essay on X and Y, right? And then you, as a tired, sleepy guy, got to stay up and try to string together a bunch of sentences that make sense. Cadre takes it, read it, and then they'll come back and they'll see who just played around or who actually paid some attention to what was going on, right? So it seems like they do the same thing there, which is awesome, right? So post-selection and integration. So let's say you go through selection, you crush it, you're out there, living the high life. What happens next, guys? All right, so once you graduate, you remain a deputy marshal, all right? And you'll get assigned to a SOG deployment as needed, right? So meaning you graduate SOG selection, and if they need you, they'll deploy you. But if a deployment doesn't come, you'll still maintain your core district duty as a deputy marshal, right? And when the mission does come, guess what? You'll deploy. You guys will have the ability to get deployed nationwide, right? So you gotta maintain your tactical savviness. Also, guys, some positions are full-time, others are part-time as far as the special operation entity goes, right? And of course, it goes without saying, guys, it requires regular refreshers to make sure you can move through, communicate, medicate at a moment's notice, right? So how does your special forces background or your military background helps you with SOG, right? Like, how does it put you ahead of everyone else? Guys, you got to keep in mind, right? Stress management. As a military guy, I hit on it earlier. Stress management, when it comes to that, what you learn in the military, what you've done in the military matters, right? Civilians don't know how to process stress like we special forces operators can, or like we soldiers can. It is what it is, guys. I'm not trying to be funny or facetious in here. I'm just calling it what it is. Next is going to be adaptability. Again, guys, we are training the military to overcome. We get the mission complete by all means. That is something that is valuable within the special operation wing of the US Marshals, right? So again, if you fell within that realm and you're looking for something to do, try that out. Let's now talk about some of the common misconceptions and pitfalls that surrounds the US Marshal Services and SOG as it relates to what you need to know, right? So number one, misconception: you must master all legal authorities, right? Not the case at all. You need to be familiar with them, but you don't need to master them, right? Federal jurisdiction and also courtroom standards. Guys, again, you need to have a working knowledge of it. You don't have to master them. That's what they have lawyers for, right? Misconception and pitfall number two: many candidates fail due to ego, lack of experience, or poor team dynamics, right? That's not the case at all, guys. Again, another misconception, not true at all. Failure isn't final, right? Many reapply and make it on a later time. A lot of people think that they go once, they fail, they can't go back. That's not the case at all, guys. You get multiple attempts at this. If being SOG is what you really want, send it. If it doesn't work out, go back, fix your issues, and then go back, right? Here are some tips that will help you prepared for SOG selection, right? Train under load, guys. It goes without saying. Ruck march, right? 35 to 65 pounds. Put it on your back. Walk for a certain amount of time. 6 to 12 miles is what I recommend until you feel like you're ready, right? Shoot under pressure. Guys, there's a variety of training courses out there. Pistol and long gun, right? If you're trying to go towards this route, Go take a couple of those courses, right? Put yourself on the timer and see how you do. And then next is going to be studying US Marshal Services Doctrine and Rules of Engagement. Knowing the legal framework does help, guys. Next is going to be mentors, right? If you are trying to go down that path, find somebody that's done it before you, reach out, ask them to be a mentor. You'll be surprised on what they might say, right? And then next is going to be mindset, guys. It's good without saying. Anything you do in life, you got to have the right mindset, right? If you don't, you're defeated before you even get there. It's no different than SOG, right? It's no different than US Marshal Services. If you want to do it, get your mind right and then send it, right? Guys, let me know what you think about this segment. If I miss anything as it relates to the United States Marshal Services or their Special Operation Wing, let me know in the comment section, guys. Until next time, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Take care of yourself.